Good morning, this is Howie, and I'm here to help you win with money. In today's episode, I would like to show why rolling an options contract can be one of the best ways to make money. So stay tuned and I'll show you the details. Alright, so let's go to EA. I'm going to show you something. Let's take a look at the chart. EA is pretty strong lately. Stay at home stocks had a nice little run up here. And let's stretch this out 6 months. You see this. We can't even see the March dip, so let's go a little bit further out. We'll do a year to date, and you can see that. And then stock's been going up. And so let me show you what happened. I have the data in a spreadsheet. And here's my spreadsheet. Let's go to the holdings. Let's find EA, and here you go. This spreadsheet is filtered by holdings only for how much premiums I collected on each underlying. Here you can see EA has made $1,400 roughly, but I'm going to show you the details. So I'll go to my trusty pivot table. I have my filter on EA. I put a formula in here using the subtotals. For those who don't know, subtotals will sum everything up only on the filtered row. And I'm just going to change that. I think it's fine. I don't think anything is wrong. Let me just technically put it like on cell 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Okay, that looks good. The only difference is 1401. I'm going to use another additional filter up here. Hang on one second. I got to scroll this to the top. If I remember, here you go. Let's toggle EA and let's see what you get. Awesome. You see that? 1401. You can hit the refresh. Well, you can hit the refresh on any of my pivots to make sure, right, it's working. So there you go. I refreshed it. 1401. There you go. The data matches. And it should match. It's a pivot table. So if you go into EA and you double click this, you see that? No smoke and mirrors. This is 1401 in the value here. So you can see the bottom. It's 1401. Anyway, let me delete that. Okay, so what I want to show you is why rolling works. Let me show you how I started. Here you go, right? I collected $14 minus fees. I roll forward. You see what I'm doing here? And you can see the dates. So I made money on this option. Then on this day, I did a roll forward. I closed the previous one for $3, and then I created a 1 week, right? Next week, I rolled it up and out, $1 in strike price, and collected another 20. So the net is $16.45. Guess what? Next week comes, and guess what I do? I rolled it again. And you can see something on this one is very unique. I actually rolled it $2 because EA was actually moving up and I was trying to get ahead of it. So I collected a small premium of $7. And you can see what happens. Here, on the 23rd of January, you can see I closed my winning contract for $7, and I believe it must be earnings. That could have been an earnings week where this is really high, and I collected a $91 premium for a net profit of $84. Then it appears that that contract expired close to worthless, and here you go again. On the 31st, I rolled it and made $16. And I just repeat. And there are times where I let it expire normally, and you will see that. Expiration, expiration. Okay, what happens when the rolling or when the stock moves faster than you want? And actually, I have that data, and you'll see it right here. I actually didn't buy. I sold a cover call on EA on the 14th for 116, and I collected $57 in premium. Bad news. Stock rockets up. How I know? Look how much it cost me to close it. So you see that? If you do the math, that's more than whatever it is, 2.1 or 2.2, right? Percent, more than double my money of what I lost. So I could have ended the trade here and say, oh, well, it is me. I collected 56 bucks, but I actually lost. EA moved up. You could have let somebody, right, call your shares away, and I could have limited my upside on $116, and that would have been the end of the trade. But what I did was I actually rolled it on this week. And when you roll, you see what happens? Yes, I technically lost on this one. I actually rolled it one more week, add $2 more to the strike, and netted another $78 in my pocket. And I just continue this process. Even if you're wrong on the share price and you see it, I do it again. So I collected another 200 here. Here I let it, the shares must have flattened out a little bit, because you can see I ended up winning on this week. The option contract going to expire worthless. And anyway, I repeat this over and over. And you're wondering, well, how long can you do this? Well, if I scroll down, watch, you can see here, EA is constantly moving up at this point, where I'm falling behind, where these options are in the money now, and it's costing me more than what I opened it. And if you can see, this is I started it over here. I started this with a $29 premium. And I can tell you what's happening here. I opened it for 125, and the stock on June 12 started moving up. So if you go back to June 12, let's see where I can find June right here. You see this? It rockets up. And if I'm doing a cover call, I should be losing money, or what some people call, right, you max your upside, or you limit your upside, and you're giving it to somebody else with a cover call. But that's not always true, because look what I'm doing. I take the losing position. I'm willing to roll it forward here, and so yes, you're paying more to close, but if you're doing it in a single transaction, you see this? This is a single transaction on the 16, and this is netting me another $58 in my pocket. And I'm moving it $2 up in strike. Remember what that means. If there's an early assignment, I will get paid my 127. And guess what happened? Next week rolls around. 127 was not enough. I roll forward, and you can see this on this day. I actually roll forward and I collected, and I just keep on repeating. And you can see how behind I get, because you can see the prices here. Look at this. I wrote a cover call, right? And at some point, I'm still trying to catch up to the current market price. So now I'm paying $1,000 to close, and I'm collecting the $1,200, or a net of $80 in my pocket. And if you keep on doing this, you can see how the share price, look at the strike price. It's moving up 132, 133, 134, 135. And guess what? At some point, reversion back to the mean happens, and I let it expire, and guess what? I can start the process all over again. Now, those are all cover calls over here, and I do this over and over and over. And you see this? This chain happened again, and then it expired worthless, and guess what? This week, I started it all again. I start with this little puny $15, but in the end, I collect $1,400 in option premium for the year 2020, regardless of what the share price does. Now, I want to explain something. Can you row on all underlines? Of course you can, but not all underlines when you row will collect a net credit. And some stocks just don't behave really well. You actually get a net debit to do this. So you got to test it on the underlines that you have and see which one works really good for rolling. Because what it tells you is, even in a cover call strategy, if you pick the wrong strike price, and if you can row and still make money, then what I teach people is, instead of going out with a higher, right, like, you got to know how to pick your odds. If you can pick a trade that has a 98% chance of winning, you're going to collect $1 or $2 in premium. And that makes no sense. So for EA, I can pick something 75 or 80% chance of winning, right? you collect a higher premium. Maybe I'm collecting 30, 40, or $50 per week. And if you're wrong, I roll forward and I roll up in the strike price until reversion back to the means happens, and eventually you make your money. On the downside, stocks that does not work, a stock that shoots or moves in one direction constantly. Think about like a Tilio or DocuSign or even a Zoom or Tesla. If you're up 2, 3, 400% on a stock in the last 4 or 5 months, those are really hard to roll. So Square was one of those examples. But you need something that's, that will trade in a range or eventually trade in a range. That's range bound. And even this is really not range bound. This is upward trending, but it's not $15, $20 a week, right? It goes up to 150, it went back down, it goes back up, and this is a perfect candidate for rolling. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments or things you want me to film, put it in the comment section. I would like to make a video on it. But this shows that this is very possible where you can roll. I only have 100 shares, by the way, of this, and I constantly roll this. So have a good, profitable trading day.